I'll take a couple minutes to talk about wire figures and how to make them stand. This is one of the things that can really throw students in terms of working with wire. They build a figure and are trying to make it stand up, and it just can be very challenging. My deep dark secret here, as you might be able to tell from the shadows on the wall, is that this figure is just leaned up against the wall right now, and it just won't stand up by itself. So this is just the very beginnings where I've just had one wire that I've bent together to get a basic structure for my wire figure, but when I try and make it stand, it just doesn't happen. So how do we do that? How do we deal with that situation? You're going to see here that when with the feet that I've created, that I've made a loop that wraps around, and one of the wires is wrapped around a little bit higher on that line, so that this represents a heel of a sort, and this wrapped narrow area might be considered like an ankle. So this can be a structure that works really well, but you do have to manipulate that a little bit. So here's a couple things that I suggest, and I'm going to bend one leg out of the way here so we can look at this one foot. Think of especially at least one foot as being a really solid, stable foot. If you think about the contrapposto pose from ancient Greek sculpture, you want to think about which foot is like the weight of the body on. And for that foot, I'll go ahead and work with this one to be that foot. You want to have a really good, solid foot that's going to meet the ground in at least 2 solid points, and preferably 3 solid points, so that that foot itself is going to create a base. So I'm going to bend this a little bit to get that heel to move back. If you think about the heel of your foot, it does come back a little bit from the narrowest part of your ankle. And then I'm going to think about the front of this foot, the width of the toes and the ball of the foot, and make sure that that has enough width on it. So when I slide it back here and try and rest that down, I want that heel and the flat of the foot to be there. And then right now my leg is coming back at a strange angle, so I need to bend that forward a little bit, putting a little pressure down to the foot to get that foot nice and solid, resting on the table well. So I was holding it down and kind of bending that in place to get the weight of the figure, in this case the weight of the wire, above that foot. Now I'm going to think about the second foot, again with this contrapposto pose in mind, and I'm going to bend the knee a little bit so that this foot is not going to be structurally, the one that's directly under the figure. And if I think about the base foot that I've just done as being a really solid point, if I can just get one point of this second foot to balance against those so that it creates kind of a nice triangle of a few different points to rest the weight on, with the weight of the body over that, then I can get a pretty good standing figure without a huge amount of work. So I'm going to position holding this foot down flat, thinking about where this foot could be, moving it over to the side a little bit so that it can create a point where if the weight of the figure is going that way just a little bit, that point that can support the weight. I have a little twisting issue, so my foot's twisted in a strange way. So it really is a lot about just small adjustments to get it to get the weight over the feet. You can even think about where the rest of the body is. An arm stretched out in one direction can very quickly pull the weight of the figure off center and make it difficult to get it to stand. So now if I have one flat foot here and then the toes of this foot here resting, then I should be able to get these to balance with just a little bit of work, slight adjustments to that, so that we get the weight going where we want it to go. Not always easy. Sometimes it takes several tries. Get the weight back a little bit further because it wants to fall forward. Same thing. Get the weight back a little bit more so it doesn't fall forward. And now I've got the weight of the figure on this one foot with a balancing point on the second foot, and it stands really nicely. So the trick here is that I've gone through all that work with this very beginning figure, and now if I add a wire, things are going to get bent, and I want to repeat this process and get it to stand up each time as we go through.